Hello everybody and welcome back to some more Jake's RC stuff. And what you might be able to hear is that I'm not as ill as I was. I've still got a bit of a but I'm like not losing my voice. It's more of a cough more than anything. But what this video is going to be talking about the Maiden of the Nano Talon. Now I flew both the Nano Talon and the Mini Talon on the same day about a week or so ago, and the Nano Talon flew absolutely brilliantly. So from what you didn't see in the last two build videos, basically what I did, I chopped the male end off a wire lead, soldered that onto the video transmitter, put the video transmitter and the camera in, and then soldered the ends of the wire lead that were on that end just onto the speed controller, and voila, we have success. I flew it once, just line of sight. It was fine. I almost took out my dad and a friend because glides very well. Something that I wasn't expecting, considering that I hadn't flown the Mini Talon at this point. Just flew it once. I don't have any dual rates on there. I think I can't remember. I put dual rates on one of them. I can't remember which Talon it was. That's the trouble when you're working on two rather similar models. But yeah, I did that, and after that I FPV'd it. First time using the 5.8 stuff in a while, certainly many years since using it on a plane, and that was actually really good. No real issues with it. I didn't go absolutely miles with it, but I sort of went within our, what I would call our local area, and it was absolutely fine, not a hiccup at all. So it's the first time using the Banggood video transmitter. It wasn't the first time using the Aeon ways. I'd used them on some mini quads there. I knew they'd be fine. But it was actually the first time using those really cheap FPV cameras. And honestly, they are 90–95% as good as I've seen in the Swifts. So for half the price or less, depending on what price Banggood have them on at the moment, absolutely worth it. I can't recommend them more, especially considering if it's going to be a model that you're going to smack into trees and things like that, or smack into a cabinet, which I'll tell you about in a minute, then honestly I'd rather have two of those, so I've got one as a spare when the first one breaks, than a Swift, because they're 90–95% as good as the other one. And all I did is just spin the lens to the correct focus point, and that was it. I haven't messed with any settings. I'm sure if you messed with settings you could even get it even better. But the settings are harder to do than on a Swift. And compared to the Eagle that's on my Mini Talon, I didn't have to solder the lead up. I just connected it in and it worked. So stuff we added to the Nano Talon, Nano Talon in this video, was obviously the speed control, which I just did because out of my sort of curiosity. Don't think you really need to do it. I did also remove the flight controller. I'm not sure if that's a good idea or not. I did it because I don't have the channels to switch it on and off with, and I don't really like flight controllers where you can't turn it fully off the stabilization. I'll go on to sort of like the flight review in a minute, and I'll explain why that may or may not be a good thing that I did that. Of course, I added those FPV components, which are all great. The battery I was using was actually an 1800 mAh 20C3S, and that wasn't enough poke, really. It would fly around, it would climb, but it wasn't really enough oomph to get you out of predicaments. So I will be trying it on 4S. I've got some 4S 1400s from mini quads I'll try it on to start with. If I can only just get CFG, I want a bit more time, I'll buy separate batteries for it. So the first time I flew it, I just flew it line of sight, and once the line of sight had finished, I'd almost like clothesline people with it. I went to fly FPV. As I say, it was absolutely fine. It actually ended up in the end with me. We have like a bank, and then sort of like it's almost like a shipping container, but it's one of those things they use for roadworks. But it's like the same type of corrugated material thing. You can just tow it, and it's got little wheels you could pump down from underneath. But flying between that and our banking, I ended up hitting the banking. It's just like hit the long grass, so nothing happened. I did tape the wings and the tail on, just a piece of tape over the top on both sides. So So yeah, after its flight, it is possible the way I have it to put it all back in the box. I was going to glue it together, but I decided not to. Tape works fine, just a bit. The blender and tape's a bit expensive to keep having to change every time. But yeah, I ended up gluing in the camera with Zap Goo. You could use plumbing glue E6000. When I tried putting it in with the super glue, first of all, I was scared of getting anything on the lens or clouding the lens up, and second of all, it was sort of sticking to, I presume, what's the mold release on the foam. So it was just popping out really easily, whereas the Zap Goo that I used glued it in nice and strongly, sort of put a bit of a fillet around it, and it stuck in really nice. Not quite straight, because there is a little bit of white showing on one side of the camera when I'm looking for it. But I really like it. Obviously in the next flight I'm going to try it on 4S, that should sort the power issues, and if not, it's so easy to swap mode. You can put a mini quad motor on it, or I've got some motors that I might try on it. I don't want to overpower it, I just want to have enough oomph to, woo, in an emergency, be able to climb sort of past 45 degrees, where I couldn't really go past 30 on the 3-cell setup. In regards to flying it, I discussed about the flight controller earlier on. That has been removed, so I'm flying it completely stock. Also, I can't remember if this has dual rates or exponentials in it. Or exponential, should I say. I'm probably going to put some in because it didn't feel like I was moving the sticks a lot to fly it around. So it might be better bringing it down a bit so I could sort of be a little bit more crashy with the sticks. I'm not sure if I was sort of more nervous because it was first time with 5.8 on a plane. I mean, the last time I flew 5.8 on a plane, it got lost for a year. That's what made me stop using it. I mean, technically it was stolen, but that's a story for another day. But yes, the sort of getting used to a lot of things. I was also unsure about the goggles because I had an issue with them previously. And basically, from my experience, it's very good. The main criticism I have on the model is I think it's built too lightly. I almost feel like if it was slightly bigger and built more normally, then I think it would be better. Like, I think this model, if it was 10 or 15% bigger, so you didn't have all the weird sort of torsion rods, you know, actually had servos in the wings, even if they're the 5-gram ones from the Micro Skyhunter, for example, that would solve some issues. I mean, they haven't caused me an issue yet, but I can see them causing issues in the future. But also, it's made out of really light foam, and it's sculptured inside. Like, they've got a lot of air gaps there where things don't need to be air gaps. I mean, the little sort of thin that comes down from sort of below the motor as like a tail skid, that has like air gaps in. You can see it when you see in the light. It's like made out of like 4 sections where they've hollowed it out. I think that if they've kept it a more solid piece and used slightly heavier foam, it would have actually been better, because it would have had sort of it sort of got blown around a bit too much. I think that if they'd made it slightly heavier, possibly slightly larger to make up for the difference, so it could penetrate the wind a little bit easier, then I don't think you'd need the stabilizer. But at the moment it is a little bit blown around, where, you know, so it's certainly sort of a later in the day or early in the morning when there's less wind about type of model than all the time. I hope some of the other smaller models I've got back here are not quite as bad in the wind. I won't say it's bad in the wind, but it's not brilliant either. It's certainly below what I want it to be, in all honesty. So it seems a bit weird that my main sort of request for this model would be for it to be a bit heavier. But I think if they made maybe if XUAV decided to make a Nano Talon, if they made it 10-15% bigger, put the servos in the wing in normal places and in the tail, and then made it a bit heavier so it handled the wind better, then I actually think that would be a better product. I really hope XUV do make a Talon, because the Nano Talon has proved quite popular, but they've done it in a weird way. So if XUV could go, oh, thanks for, like, well, I think XUV would do that stuff in the first, but if they go, there's the things that were wrong with this one, let's make our own one that's better. As I say, 10 or 15% bigger and a little bit better, denser, sort of like heavier foam. It seems weird to request heavier foam on a model, but yeah. But it's something that I do enjoy flying. I am glad of the purchase. The usual big question with these is, would you buy another one? The issue is that at the moment, especially with ZOHD and Sonic model and things like that, there's a lot of models at this size and price range. I'll be honest, I mean, I haven't flown a lot of the small stuff I've got yet, but it depends why I was getting a new one. If I freshed the foam to bits, then probably, yeah. But if it was a case of I was repairing it because a lot of the plastic started failing, then probably not. It flies nice enough, but I'm not sure if it's built well enough, to be brutally honest. I think ZOHD's other models might be better. I actually ordered in the sale because it was super cheap a ZOHD Dart. That's going to be for a slightly different project than just building it, because it looks nice and looks fun. It's actually going to be using a slightly different project, which is why I'm sort of waiting for it to go sort of nice and cheap. It's 38 quid for the kit, not the plug and play version, because you'll see why I'm not using the plug and play version anyway. It's not for a fast one, it's for something slightly different, more of like a Top Gear challenge type thing. But anyway, yes, Nano Talon. If I was you, I would go and buy one. It's just sort of, the test for me is how well it's going to survive. And it sort of depends how windy your area is. I mean, it's hard for our area to be completely clear, because it's basically on top of a hill / in the valley of the hill, where obviously wind gets funneled. It's not like the biggest valley in the world, but it is quite hard to get absolutely calm days. It will certainly be a sort of in the evening model once you put all the sort of more challenges to put together stuff away, and you just want some last few flights. I know they're the dangerous words, but yeah. So overall, you don't need to change the speed controller on it unless you're putting loads of fancy stuff connected to the receiver. Can't comment on the flight controller. All the FPV stuff in it worked really well, especially that cheap camera. That's amazing. But I just wish it was slightly bigger, slightly heavier, which is, again, a weird request. But maybe that is something that XUAV will provide when they make their own, which I'm sure they will do at some point. But yes, thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this, please click the like button. Please subscribe if you're new, and leave any comments if you have any questions or feedback or anything like that. As you can see with the picture on the screen, they were both taken at the same time, the Mini Talon and the Nano Talon. So the video next week will either be a mailbag episode, because there's some interesting stuff arrived in the mail that I decided to purchase as a Christmas present to myself, since flying the Nano Talon, or it'll be a video on the Mini Talon itself. And it's, after 2 flights, what's left of it. Slight hint to what might have happened. But anyway, yes, thank you for watching. See you all in the next one. Bye-bye.